Hi, this is David Davis, and you're watching vChat. This is vChat number 44. I'm David Davis from VMwareVideos.com,
And I'm Simon Seagrave from TechHead.co.
and today we're joined by special guest Emad Younis from VMware. Emad, thanks so much for being on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thanks for having me. As David said, my name is Emad Younis. I'm a senior technical marketing engineer here at VMware. So I cover the vCenter Server Appliance and also migrations from a Windows-based vCenter server to the appliance.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, I guess one of the big announcements with the 6.5 release is a lot of the features there are actually based around vCenter itself. Can you give us like an overview of what's new, what's hot in the 6.5 release with vCenter?
Oh wow, it's I would say 6.5 is probably one of the biggest releases that VMware has had in quite some time. There's just so much packed into this release, especially around vCenter. The deployment model has changed now. We have like stage 1, stage 2. We now have native vCenter high availability. VUM is now part of the appliance, so no longer requiring a separate Windows server. We provide more visibility into the appliance. The appliance has become the de facto deployment when it comes to vCenter. And then we have some other improvements around, we also have native backup, file-based backup restore. We have, some security improvements in regards to logging, secure boot. It's just so much to to cover.
Yeah. Well, more than we've got time, probably. Unfortunately, there's a lot there, and some really good features.
Yeah.
Features that we've been hanging out for a number of years. And like you say, with 6.5, it seems like the whole the vCenter appliance has finally got to maturity, and it's got to that tipping point. Because one of the things with the 6.5 launch, if I'm not mistaken, was the the dedicated C# client, or was it an Adobe Flex or something like that? The fat client is no more. Finally, it's finally been done away with.
Yeah, so in 6.5 we no longer ship the C# client. The actual Flex client or web client is now so much improved. We flattened out the actual layout so it looks similar to the C#, as well as it becomes the source of truth because we have live refresh enabled. So you don't have to worry about that little spinning wheel and go get coffee, come back, it's still spinning. It actually works. So I promise there. But we've also added the HTML5 client as well, part of the appliance. It has a subset of features today, but as we provide more updates, we'll be adding new features, basically just like the Fling. If you want to see what's coming out, go check out the HTML5 Fling, and that will tell you kind of what our progression is.
Yeah, in my lab, I've installed vSphere 6.5. I haven't, played with every new feature, but yeah, one of the things that struck me immediately was it just seemed a lot faster, just so much more usable, right out of the box. And then also if I just point my web browser to an ESXi host, there's no more. There is the option to download the C# client, for Windows, but instead it has a pointer to the HTML5 client, which, like you said, is really cool. So it's just built into an ESXi host by default, even for basic, manageability. So tell us a little bit more about, kind of the migration, because I know that's your area of expertise. What have you seen people doing, and what's the process?
Yeah, so the process is actually, I think it's straightforward, but the key thing to remember here is we're not only doing a migration, copying the data from the source Windows vCenter server to the appliance, but we're also doing an upgrade because we're going from version 5.5 or 6.0 Windows-based to a 6.5 appliance. So that's one thing to remember there. The standard upgrade rules still apply, right? As far as the workflow, we support both embedded and external deployments. We also support any database that's supported within the version, so either 5.5 or 6.0, and everything will come over into a vPostgres that's part of the embedded appliance. For the embedded deployment, if everything is on the same box, including VUM, you'll run the migration assistant directly on that VM. The migration assistant basically allows you to determine if that Windows VC is capable of being migrated. So we're going to go through some pre-checks. And if everything passes, then you can continue on using the migration tool. If things fail, we'll notify you, and then you can fix them and then proceed. Then we'll also use the migration assistant to transfer the data from the source to the appliance. The migration tool runs on a separate routable box, so it can be your Mac, it could be another Windows machine, just anything that is on a routable network that can communicate with the source Windows vCenter server. And once everything is done, you'll end up with a vCenter server appliance that has the same identity as your source Windows vCenter, so UID, FQDN, IP address, which is big because now any other solution that was using vCenter as an endpoint doesn't know any different. It doesn't even realize it's been migrated.
Wow, that's nice. Cool. And I'm just wondering, for a typical migration, I mean, it's going to be different, right? For depending on the size of the the database, how many hosts there are, etc. But on a sort of like an SMB or a medium-sized sort of company, whatever that may actually be, how quick is that process to make that migration across? Are we talking sort of hours or minutes, or how long's a bit of string, I guess, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, so this is where I put my old consultant hat back on and say it depends.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, within the tool, we don't have any process that shows you the time, but we have 2 KB articles out there that provide scripts, whether you're doing 5.5 or 6.0, but we'll provide you a script that you can run, and it will go against your database, look at the size, and give you a breakdown of how long, an estimated time of how long the migration process could take.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So whilst you're doing the migration, is there anything, I mean, how does it do a first pass at bringing all the database records across, and then does it keep it like a change log, and then before it makes that final switch over, bring any changes since the first initial pass kicked off? Does it apply those to the appliance or the Postgres database?
So it's kind of an all-in-one swoop, but the good thing is you have access to what you want to migrate. So by default, your configuration and inventory will be migrated. And one common question is, if I'm using a distributed switch, will that be migrated as well? And the answer to that is yes, because it is part of your configuration. We give you the option of selecting if you want to bring like your historical data, so your seat data, stats, events, tasks, things like that. If you want to bring all that over, you can. If you want to selectively choose, you can. But if you want to do a clean type migration, like most people request, they stand up doing this manually, then don't bring over your historical data, and we'll bring over the configuration inventory, and you're at a clean start. But if those things are important to you for audit purpose or whatnot, then you can bring those as well.
Wow, that's pretty good. And is it, obviously I've never done one of these migrations myself before, is it like a GUI-based tool? Is it pretty easy? Is it like a wizard that you just need to step through?
Yeah, so the migration assistant looks more like a command prompt. You'll just enter in your SSO credentials and it'll run through. And then you have the migration tool, which is actually wizard driven. You just mount the ISO from the vCSA. From the UI, you'll hit migration, and it's all wizard driven, doing stage 1, deploying the appliance, stage 2 configures, and then brings over the migration data.
Wow, nice.
And I mean, there's no downtime for the ESXi hosts and the virtual machines. Is that true?
Yeah, there's zero downtime for that. At some point, we do shut down after we've copied over the data. We will shut down the source Windows vCenter server. That only affects the administrator, right? But as far as the hosts and the VMs, everything is still continuously running.
Cool. And do you foresee one day when vCenter for Windows is no longer?
I was expecting that question. It's the $1 million question, right? The way I would answer that is I think you see VMware's direction, and the writing is kind of on the wall.
Yeah.
But all the new features now are going towards the appliance.
Okay, cool. So what about, some other things that are new in vSphere 6.5? I know you mentioned like secure boot. Like, what is secure boot?
So it's basically using UEFI, and we're using digital signatures to validate. So before it was like a Microsoft signature, but now you'll have also a VMware signature, and we're going to validate, like on the hosts, we're going to validate that the VIBs that are installed are actually valid VIBs. If they're not, then we'll basically go into a purple screen, let you know that, hey, this VIB isn't officially signed, and you have to kind of mitigate that. So it's just a way to ensure that whatever VIBs, or in the case of VMs, drivers are officially signed and supported.
Got it.
Good.
I saw some people talking about like encrypted virtual machines. So I know there's a lot of new security, enhancements happening.
Yeah, I mean,
Mike Foley is your guy for all that.
Right.
What's that?
But one of the features that stood out for me was the native high availability. Is that something you get involved with, or is that in your domain at all?
For vCenter, yeah. So we now have native high availability for vCenter. So vCenter HA for the first time in vCenter history. I'm sure you guys have been using the product for a very long time. So you remember when vCenter didn't have any of this stuff, and it's probably been an ask for a long time.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So basically, we have and it's an active passive type model in this release. So what we do is we'll clone the active vCenter to basically a secondary standby vCenter passive node, and then we'll also clone it again and have a witness node for split brain.
Ah, right, nice.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome for that to be built in. I mean, I remember doing a lab at VMworld many years ago on the vCenter HA product that like VMware bought and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
long time ago. So yeah, that's awesome that's built in. And then I saw native backup and restore is also built into vCenter.
Yeah, so today we, as part of the workflow, if you go into the VAMI using port 5480, you'll see under the summary tab, you'll see a backup button. Again, it's wizard driven. We don't require any type of plugin. You can actually do it while the vCSA is running, so you don't have to quiesce or shut it down or anything like that. You'll go through the workflow. We support a few protocols, so HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, FTPS, and SCP as your destination. Once you've backed up your vCSA, you also have the option to encrypt that backup using AES-256. Just keep in mind when you do that, you'll be prompted for a password. You have to hold that password like really tight because it's required for a restore, and if you forget it or lose it, well,
That's it.
yeah, that's all she wrote. But the restore option is even easier because we just use the ISO from the vCSA. You'll mount that, hit restore, point to the protocol, and now you can just go through the wizard and you're back up and running from that backup.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing that I noticed is, and you mentioned, is VUM. So traditionally, if you wanted to use, I know it's not called vSphere Update Manager anymore. It's called VMware Update Manager. If you want to use VUM, you had to have a Windows box to run that.
Yeah,
so now
right.
that's no longer needed.
Yeah, so it's part of the appliance natively out of the box. So new deployments, it's there running as a service. If you're doing a migration, again, we'll migrate it over. If it's on an external box, you'll just run the migration assistant there, and then it will be part of the workflow. And we'll also bring it over during an update as well. So again, just use the migration assistant, and we'll be able to, during an update, bring it in. If it's something that you don't want to migrate or upgrade, just unregister it from vCenter, and when you bring up the appliance, we'll have that service already there, and you can start fresh if you want.
Right, nice.
Okay.
No, that's nice. I mean, I really like how VMware's gone to this appliance model for everything. I mean, that's just so much nicer So much nicer. I mean, especially from a management point of view. I know, I mean, gone are the days now because I mean, I work for Dell EMC, but back in the EMC days, we always had Macs. So, you know, my machine of choice then, well, the machine I was given was a Mac. And the problem is, you know, connecting to vCenter or anything was always something of a limited experience. And, you know, the same would have been for the Linux users out there as well. But, you know, the great thing is the OS X and Linux users out there are now well and truly catered for with vCenter.
So speaking of like Macs, one cool thing about the appliance is now with the 6.5 release, you can deploy from your Mac, from your Linux machine or Windows machine. We actually will allow you to support those platforms, and we're browser agnostic when it comes to the vCSA installer.
Wow, nice. That's really good.
So no more SIP, no more the client integration plugin that you had to use.
Yeah. That'd be music to many people's ears out there.
Yep.
Very much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So some great new features here, you know, with 6.5. So, you know, out of all of these, or maybe even, you know, one we haven't covered, what's would you say? Have you got a favorite, or what would be the main feature that really stands out for you or that you like the most?
For me, it's kind of hard to just narrow it down to one. I mean, again, I cover the appliance. I'm a big fan. I was a fan when I was, you know, external from VMware, looking in. So to me, it's all the improvements that have come along within the appliance. I mean, if you look at the history of the appliance, it started out kind of as this special project. Yeah. Right, and you can use it in your home lab if you wanted to. And in 6.0, it became this, hey, we now have scale parity to its Windows counterpart. And now in 6.5, we're looking at it from a, hey, it should be your default deployment. And they've put a lot of time and investment and effort into the appliance, and it's only going to get better.
No,
Yeah, so many improvements along the appliance, and I mean, we don't have time really to go into all the features today, but I'm impressed how VMware continues to improve on features that have been around for a long time. Like, there's a ton of improvements on HA and DRS still. You know, I would think, like, I start to assume, like, well, those are done. Like, they do everything we need. Yeah, they work. What else do we need? Yeah, and then they come out with more, you know, like DRS aware network or HA network.
So you have like network DRS. You have like proactive HA.
Yeah.
Orchestrated restarts. It's just there's just so many improvements. You know, admission control now has kind of its own little menu off to the side where it used to be part of vSphere HA, things like that. So yeah. So kudos to VMware for so many, you know, massive improvements in 6.5.
Yeah, definitely. It's getting tougher to keep track of it all. I don't know how you guys find it. I mean, like Emad, you said there, you know, you've got your area of speciality, but gone are the days when you used to be able to sort of, I mean, it's the same as IT, right? Where you used to be an IT guy, used to do networking, servers, storage, the whole thing, desktops. But I mean, there's the same with the VMware portfolio of products, or even more core to that, the actual vSphere portfolio of products. You know, quite often you do need to sort of specialize in a particular area. I mean, you can still spread yourself thinly enough to keep up with the play in all areas, but I think it's got to the point now where the amount of features and the complexity of it that you do need to sort of, I don't know, choose the areas in which you are going to delve perhaps a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and we have, you know, other TMMs within the team. So I work with people like Mike Foley, who of course is our security expert. You got Kyle Ruddy, who deals with our APIs, CLIs, things like that. We also have Adam Eckerly, who's my counterpart in vCenter as well. We have Eric Gray, who deals with the life cycle, and so yeah, we all kind of specialize in our area within vSphere.
If people want to learn more about 6.5 or the migration and things like that, what do you recommend? Are there hands-on labs, or what kind of tools can they learn with?
Sure. So definitely we have the hands-on labs. Those are free. We also have product walkthroughs. I don't know if you guys seen the product walkthroughs, but they're basically step-by-step, but also click-by-click. So you get to hover your mouse and move over and click through the process. So that's another way to do it. We do have blog posts, videos. We have a few YouTube videos out there with the light boards now that we each produced. So definitely an abundant amount of content out there.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And what about yourself? Do you are you on Twitter or any social media? Have you got a blog so you can we can pimp here?
Sure. So on Twitter, it's just at Emad_Younis, and then my blog is emadyounis.com.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the vChat today, Emad. It's been awesome.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
I've learned a lot, and I must admit, I've put my hand up. I haven't done the upgrade up to 6.5 yet, so I've yet to do that in my lab. I haven't had time, so it's definitely pretty high on my to-do list, that's for sure.
All right. Well, once you get it done, I'll send you a cool migrate to vCSA T-shirt. How about that?
There we go. There's the incentive. I'll start on it tonight.
What about those Yoda T-shirts? Didn't you have some Yoda T-shirts?
Well, so we're not calling it Yoda, right? We call it.
That's right. It's not Yoda.
Gribble, but I think I may. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's so much stuff there, David, that I want to try out. I've definitely got to get my lab working.
Oh, there we go.
That is awesome.
Nice. Migrate to vCSA, you should. I like it.
Very nice. Very nice. Oh, heck yeah. If I can get my hands on one of those T-shirts, I'll definitely be getting that upgrade done.
I got you covered. I got you covered.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well, thanks, Emad. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, guys. This has been great.
All right.
See you again soon.
See you on the next vChat. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.